Hello everyone and welcome back to the course of Hindu art, architecture and iconography. Today I will be talking about the beginning of temple architecture, and till now we have been talking about the stupas, the viharas and rock cut architecture, how they were made, what were the types and who were patronizing them, what was the time period. So we will be starting up with beginning of temple architecture and how the temple came into existence, how the idea came into existence, and which patrons were there, what were the time period of these temples. So in this class, I will be just talking about the beginning of the temple architecture, the important temple architectural features, along with the first temples which were built during the some of the early historic period of ancient India. So before I start, there will be some certain terms which will be used throughout the temple architecture. So the first term is Adhishthan. So it is pronounced as Adhishthan, which is a decorative raised platform on which a temple is built on. So it is the plinth, you can say, on which the temple is erected. The next term is Amlak. It is a large fluted stone disc which is placed on top of the shikhara or the superstructure of a temple in Nagara style or the northern style of temple architecture. The next term, it is Antaral. It is an antechamber which takes you towards the inner sanctum or towards the sanctum sanctorum. The other term which is going to be used throughout is Ardha Mandap. It is a temple portico serving as an entrance porch towards the sanctum sanctorum. Next is Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha is the sanctum sanctorum itself, where the deity or the image or the sculpture of the god or the goddess is kept. Another term is used is mandapa. Mandapa means is a columned hallway which leads towards the Garbhagriha or the sanctum sanctorum. The last but not the least, but very important, is the shikhar, which is the superstructure of the tower or of the Nagara style of temple architecture, which is built directly above the inner sanctum sanctorum or the Garbhagriha. In the northern style or in the Nagara style of architecture, it is called Shikhara. But when we are going towards south, or when I will be talking about the southern type of or the Dravida style of temple architecture, the superstructure will be referred as Vimana. So the temple. Now, in Indian context, as we all know, ancient India is, filled with religious and philosophical thoughts, and it flows in our blood even today. So, the temple, it is the abode or house of the Almighty, and it is often referred as Devalaya or Devayatan. Now, Dev here means Lord or the God itself, and Alaya means house or where the person is staying. And Devayatan, similarly, Dev means the God, and Ayatan means the house or the chamber where the god is situated. Now, the temple is an example, or it is a cosmos itself. It is a cosmos in stone. It depicts the universe, it depicts the life, it depicts the human body. So, therefore, the temple is very, very important and integral part of Indian architecture, ancient Indian architecture, Hindu architecture, along with the human belief system. I just as said, the temple reflects the universe and it is profusely decorated with sculptures of Devis and Devtas, which are the deities, mythical figurines, everyday scenes, amorous couples such as Mithuna, decorative patterns, birds, animals, etc. These all are a symbolic depiction of the worldly desires of a human being, since when you will view a temple you will see a lot of things which are not common in the world. You will see mythical figurines like birds with animal faces or animals with wings or legs are different. It also depicts certain sexual interests of a human being. There are temples which shows Mithuna couples or amorous couples doing a lot of sexual acts. Along with there are images and small sculptures of Devis and Devtas, gods and goddesses, semi-gods and semi-divine gods, goddesses, along with everyday scenes of life, like a person going out to bring milk, a person going to work, or a sundari or a semi-divine beauty. She's standing with a bird. So these all depicts the worldly pleasures of a human being. Now, the temple, which is based on Vastupurusha, the Vastupurusha is the cosmic being, which has already been discussed in the introduction class that what is a Vastupurusha, and it depicts the human body. Similarly, a body has a soul, like we all human beings have a soul. Similarly, the temple, it is identified as a universe, it is identified as a human body. It also requires a soul, and hence the soul is situated in the sanctum sanctorum or the garbhagriha. Now, garbha in Hindi or in Sanskrit, it means the womb, the holy womb, and the womb has the it is more most of it is the most purest and the most important and most beautiful thing in this world. That is the reason the sanctum sanctorum is called garbhagriha, because creation takes place from there, and hence the temple's garbhagriha, where the deity resides. The sanctum symbolizes regeneration and higher self attainment. Now, as I said about the sculptures and everyday images of gods and goddesses and everyday scenes of the life, patterns of love making, birds and animals depict that whenever a human being is entering the temple, which is a symbolic form of the cosmos, a symbolic form of the whole of the universe, a person should leave all his worldly desires, all his um, ichhas, the desires outside the temple, and he or she should enter with a pure heart only to see the deity and have darshana, or to see the deity and have self attainment and self realization. As we proceed towards, now we have been talking about the temple, what is a temple is, and how it is important, what it symbolizes. Now, when we talk in Indian or Hindu art architecture, so the temple architecture or the temples are divided into three broad categories. The first is the Nagara style of temple architecture or the North Indian style, which is quite prevalent in the states of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Bengal. The other is the Vesara style, or it is the hybrid style, or the mix of the both North and the South Indian style of temple architecture, and it is quite prevalent in the states of Karnataka. And the third category is that of the Dravid style, or the South Indian style of temple architecture, and it is quite prevalent in the states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So these are the three important categories. Lecture, I will be talking about the North Indian temple architecture, or the Northern or the Nagara style of temple architecture. So the plan of the temple is usually square in the North Indian temple architecture, with a number of gradual projections which are called urushringas, and with the presence of these projections the temple becomes in a cruciform in shape, and finally the temple is a whole square. Here it means that the temple, the plan is square, and the temple or the shikhara has certain type of projections. And when we have a bird view of the temple, it looks in a cruciform shape. It looks like it is a proper square. So this is what it means here. And these projections occur throughout the height of the structures. So these projections are sometimes called Urushringas and sometimes they are called Rathas. In the North Indian architecture or in the Nagara style of architecture, they are referred to as Rathas or the projections. So when we talk about the elevation, so Shikara also has projections and which are carried upwards forming a curvy linear shape. Now when you view a temple, it will have projections and from the frontal view, it will have a curvy linear or a concave form of Shikara will be there. Now the temple stands upon a plate platform called Jagati. Now in the previous slide, I just talked about few of the terms which will be used. One of them is the adhisthana. Now, with the time and with the region, the term adhisthana changes. Now, when we talk in the context of the northern or the Nagara style of architecture, the platform is called Jagati, or sometimes it's also called adhisthana. So, the temple on which it is a platform on which the temple is actually kept or it is erected upon. And when we see it in the south or further south or in the east, the term for Adhisthana change like Pishta is used and sometimes Jagati is used or sometimes Adhisthana is used. I will be talking about it when I'll be taking up the different or the next temple architectural forms and features. So the body of the temple is called Jangha. Now the Jangha depicts the human form. Okay, now the thighs of a person's thighs are called Jangha. So hence the body of the body is now since the temple is the formation of the body, it is called the parts of the Jangha, and Jangha area has the mandapa, the antechambers, the vestibule. Then we have the Garbhagriha, which is the womb of the body. Now, when we talk about the Shikhara, it depicts the head of a person, and finally the Stupi or the Kalash or the Amlak, it depicts the head or the brain of the person. So this was with the North Indian temple architecture features. Now I will be talking about the parts of the Nagara style of temple architecture, or it is a general view of a temple architecture. But when we see in the different regions of South or East India, there are few differences in the temple architecture, but the main features are always the Garbhagriha, which is the sanctum sanctorum, then the Shikhara, which is the superstructure. It is mounted with a amlaka. It is a fluted disc on which a kalasha or a stupi is kept on. Now, kalasha is the holy pot, and inside a coconut is kept. That is called a stupi. Then the mandapa. Mandapa is a pillared hall which takes us towards the Garbhagriha. Now, in the later development of the temple architecture, we get to see the Ardha Mandaps. Now, Ardha Mandaps are a small porch which leads towards the larger pillared hall or towards the mandap. And after mandapa, we see a small antaral. Antaral is between a place between the mandapa and the Garbhagriha, a small place. It is a vestibule which takes us from mandapa to the Garbhagriha. So these were the some of important features of the temple architecture. Now we start with the development of the Nagara style of temple architecture or the temple architecture. So the idea of temple architecture started somewhere around 3rd, 4th centuries CE. But before that, from 1000 BCE till 2nd or 3rd century CE, we only see examples of stupas, viharas, chaityas, and rock cut caves. We do not get evidences of the temple, what we understand in the present context, or the temples what we are studying right now. So, what were the reasons that there were no temples? So, as per the scholars and as per me, there must have been temples, there must have been temple worships, there have been images, but these things or the archaeological evidence was, made in the form of perishable material, which did not survive till today. And since the rock cut caves and these stupas and viharas are made up of stones, that is the long-lived, legacy of these archaeological evidences that we even find today. Also, the second reason is that most during that period, that 6th century BC to 2nd century CE, we see the upcoming of these heterodox cults such as Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivikas, and most of the patronage was provided to them, and hence there must have been temples, but we do not get the examples of temples, or whether the temples were built or not. We even don't know that. But in the form of literature and in the form of archaeological evidence, we start getting it from the upcoming of the Gupta Empire, that is around 320 CE. And also these Gupta rulers were ruling in North India, specifically in the region of Magad, Bihar, and in the adjoining regions of Uttar Pradesh, Bengal, and other parts of North India. And this period, Gupta Empire, this period is often referred to as the golden period and the period of Brahminical revival, because this at this time Brahminical thoughts and religious sects were again getting their power, which was lost in the 6th century BC due to the upcoming of the heterodox cults such as the Buddhism and Jainism and Ajivika. So this period is also referred to as a golden period, because at this time we get the upcoming of the beautiful temple architecture. Art forms are getting new faces to their lives. Literature was very good. Art forms were getting the fine arts, singing and dancing. These forms, what we understand in the present Indian context, these all were getting concretized during this period. So, uh, at when certain things start, it is a very small start, right? So the temple architecture, it was a formative state or the small formative stage of temple architecture, which developed with regional tendencies due to the patronage of different dynastic rules from 9th to 10th century CE, and it marks the mature form of the Nagara or the North Indian temple style of temple architecture. Now, due to various regional affiliations and also the dynastic rules, because India has been ruled by many of the uh, famous Hindu rulers and kings. So, this was due to these regional variations. Four basic variations have been identified by the scholars. So, first is the Central Indian style, which developed in Madhya Pradesh. The second is the Orison style of temple architecture, which was in the Orison region, Eastern India. Then we have the Gujarat style in Western India, and then we have the Rajputana style, which was prevalent in the areas of Rajasthan. Now we come to the classification of the temples. So the first evidence of a temple, what we understand in the present context, the temple, we get it from temple number 17 at Sanchi, Madhya Pradesh. And it is the first example of a temple where you can see there is a mandapa, and there are four pillars, and it has a square and flat roof with a shallow porch. And we do not get the example of the shikara. The idea of shikara was still developing. The second example or the second type is that of the Parvati Temple at Nachna Kuthara. It is also in Madhya Pradesh, and now we get the example of a Pradakshina Path or the circumambulatory around the Garbhagriha or the Sanctum Sanctorum. The third form is the temple with initial stage of Shikhara, which comes from Bhitargaon and Deogarh. So these were the three classifications of the temples or the temple architecture. The first evidences of temples, what we understand today, is from temple number 17 Sanchi. The second is from Parvati Temple at Nachna Kuthara, and the third is where we see the first evidence of a Shikhara. It is coming from Deogarh and Bhitargaon. Both are in Uttar Pradesh. So I will be talking about the earliest temples, which dates back around 400 to 500 CE, and it is the Dasavatara Temple in Deogarh. The Dasavatara Temple, it is dedicated to Vishnu, since the Dasavatar that Vishnu took 10 incarnations, and the 10th incarnation is still awaited. It is the of Kalki, but this Vishnu has been incarnated in 10, he has been incarnated in 9 forms, one of them being the famous one being the Ram, Krishna, and then Vamana, then Narsim, Kurma, and Matsya. These were some of the important his incarnation, and the 10th incarnation, that is of Kalki, which will come, or it is said to be that he will be coming at the end of the Kali Yuga, and in the Kali Yuga, if we are in the Kali Yuga, and he will be coming at the end of the Kali Yuga on a white horse. So this is a fun fact about Hindu or the Brahminical religious sect. So this is of the temple of Dashavatara temple, and it is dedicated to Dashavatara means Vishnu, and Vishnu is the main deity of this temple, and it is situated in Deogarh, the Jhansi district of Uttar Pradesh, and this temple has three important outstanding characteristics. The first, we get the first of the earliest known shikharas or the superstructure. And in the previous temples, when I was talking about the Parvati Temple or the temple number 17 at Sanchi, they do not have the superstructure. So here we get the very initial stage of a superstructure coming here. Now there are steps or staircases on the each side of the temple, as you see it in the first photograph, which depicts the Dasavatara Temple Complex. You will see that there are staircases leading towards the temple. There are on the four cardinal directions, and it has a profusely decorated doorway, or you can just see it in the third image, which shows that it is decorated doorway. It is decorated with devis and devtas, with beautiful banners, with chaitya motifs, and obviously at the door in the front you can see there is a small Vishnu image who has been seated. And also the this temple is decorated with high relief sculptural panels. A number of sculptural panels are there, and I have given one of the example, that is the Seshayin Vishnu. This is the fourth image, which shows that Vishnu is lying down in his abode, that is Vaikuntha, on the snake or on the lotus sometimes, but he is here on the snake. Now you can see that Vasuki, the snake, is hooding him, and he's sleeping in very calm pose. And Vishnu's wife Lakshmi, she's caressing the legs of his, as his legs are paining due to he as he's taking care of this world. Along with, you can see the upper panel that there are various gods and goddesses, and in the lower panel you see uh, around 6 7 figures are standing there, which depicts the other people who are living in this world. So the other temple, which is earliest and corresponds to the same period of 400 to 500 CE, and that is the Bhitargaon Temple at Kanpur district, and it is the oldest surviving brick temple, and it is not exclusively dedicated to one deity, because when it was founded by the excavators, as you can have a rear view of the temple at Bhitargaon 1875, the image shows that how it was found. So excavators did not find any, or the historians do not find any sculpture or any of the images of any god or goddesses. So hence it is said that it is not exclusively dedicated to any uh, deity. And also the plan of the temple is square, and it has an entrance porch which forms an arch made up of bricks, and it is not as decorated as the previous temple, the Dashavatara temple. Now we see a temple cornice which has a carved frieze, and from the top of the cornice, the we can see the rising of the damaged shikara, and first time we get to see the vaulted arch. And the idea of the vaulted arch is quite prevalent in the South Indian temple architecture. So with this, I end with the beginning of the temple architecture, and see you in the next class where we'll be talking about the various forms and various other affiliations of the temple architecture.